Alright, so we're taking a look at some of the projects that we've made with this
Ender 3 and the
Ender 5 and talk about some of the experiences and some of the
modifications we've made and
issues and troubleshooting along the way.
In this project, we joined in a live conversation over on Guns and Barbecue's channel, and Kingpin was in there, so used that opportunity to do the Kingpin model in 3D, and did most of this in about an hour as far as the modeling, and then a couple more minutes to slice it. It actually took some time to slice it, tried a few different options, and then somebody suggested doing the gun channels thing as a base for it so it wouldn't fall over. That was a great idea, so we added that in the slicer. And then this one, we printed a prototype quickly at 2 hours, and it came out okay. It had some issues, and then printed this 4-inch tall model, and that took more like 5.5 hours, 6 hours. So what we're looking at here is the fast forward of the Fusion 360 software. I went in and took a picture of the logo, where I used the logo from Kingpin and dropped it on one of the surfaces or one of the planes in that software, and then used the center point as the center point for his drawing. That gave me the up and down axis as sort of the center point of the bowling pin, let's say, of Kingpin. Then started to draw a curve, spun that curve or rotated that curve around the axis, that center point, and that created the bowling pin shape. Then we created 2 spheres and pushed those in and out of the bowling pin until they looked what might look like the eyes in the cartoon. Added the crown, added the little stripes around the neck, and then the spikes on the crown. Oh, and then of course the pistol. And then just used the 2-dimensional drawing to line everything up and to compare proportions and sizes. Everything looks a little bit different in 3 dimensions, so I'm still going to be learning, bringing stuff, translating stuff from that 2-dimensional into 3-dimensional with some adjustment of some proportions perhaps, because it looks a little goofy, I think, with this sort of true to proportion projection of the 2-dimensional thing. But this is what practice is all about. Okay, so then kind of went quickly there because it didn't take long to shove it through the slicing software. That was the yellow images, and that's the software that translates it into the printer. And I don't think I even recorded the part where we added the G, gun channels G, for a platform. And then went to print it, and I printed it in daylight. There's a skylight in this room where the printer is, so this is basically natural light from the left, and then we have a little desk lamp on the right, so it's kind of washed out a little bit, but wanted to get good lighting. Then set up a phone as a camera and let it record for 5 hours, almost 4 hours and something minutes as the print started. We used no brim on this one because it had the G down below, but we did use some structure, and we used the tree style of structure, and that's the parts on the outside that kind of look like tree trunks, or I think of them, they look a lot like termite tunnels. That's how termites come up into a house. So it's creating the part behind there. We can't see it so much from this angle, and then these structure parts. These parts in the structure kind of just come up and along for all the overhangs. The bowling pin has sort of that pear shape, so that really didn't need any support. But as it gets to the pistol, the revolver, and as it gets to the brim of the crown and maybe the eyeballs a little bit, it could use just a little support from outside the structure, and that's where these support structures are being created. What it does, though, is it adds more time to the print because it has to create those. It adds more plastic, or it requires more plastic. So that's a factor in, if you were doing multiple parts or trying to do this in some kind of time frame. And then there's some strategy, I guess, to how to do the structure. Although the structure pretty much happens in the software automatically, there are things that you can do to your design, or you can kind of do in in some of the parameters of the software to influence how it's going to automatically create that structure. So part of these projects is learning that interaction, learning how the software does these things. So one of the things I'll do in the future is try different slicing software, and it'll have different approaches and different strategies to creating structure. So different amounts of plastic being used, and hopefully lower amounts of time for the prints. And that's part of the process, part of the what there is to learn about printing. So at this point, it's probably about 70 or 80% of the way. It's printing his face out around now. I just can't really see any of it because of the structure. And then eventually print out the rest of the crown. And then we went live after this. This took, like I say, about 5 hours. We started this at the beginning of the Sunday morning show that Gizzard Gary hosts. And for that 4-hour show, most of this was printing. Then we went live for a moment, and the structure came off in 2 pieces. So it basically popped right off, and we were left with the finished part. And it came out pretty well. There was quite a few little fragile parts and dangly areas, but got lots of good detail. And overall, a really nice finished product. This one's about 4 inches tall that we're looking at here. Gave it plenty of room to create all that detail. We want to thank Kingpin for being a good sport and letting us play with his logo like this and use it as practice. We're going to print another one out and, of course, send him one. Keep one for the collection probably, and then maybe have one out there for a giveaway or something. So if you have questions or comments, let us know. If you have any concerns, if we're doing something wrong, let us know. But the whole point here is to share what we're doing and inspire other people to get out there and try these things. And if you have questions, let's find out the answers together. All right, until next time, thanks for watching.
Welcome to Gear Websites, your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We have print-on-demand shirts and posters and lots of patches. In fact, every Friday is Free Patch Friday. Thank you for your support and for shopping at GearWebsites.com.